When I refused to give my sister a loan, my family said, "You're selfish, she deserves more than you." I didn't reply, just walked out. Last night she called me crying because I didn't say a word when they said it. Just picked up my jacket, walked past the silence in the living room like I didn't hear it. But I heard every syllable. "You're selfish. She deserves more than you." That was my mother talking. My father nodded without looking up from his newspaper, like it was some courtroom verdict he couldn't be bothered to defend. And my sister, Olivia, of course, Olivia, stood there smug, arms folded, already playing the victim even though I was the one being blamed. They wanted me to lend her $40,000. To save her business, she said. It wasn't a business. It was a vegan bakery in a neighborhood with 5 other bakeries and a Starbucks on both ends of the block. She didn't even bake. She hired influencers to market cupcakes she bought from Costco and repackaged. I had goals. A down payment on a house. My own place, finally. Years of working 60-hour weeks, putting myself through school without a cent from them. I climbed out of a basement apartment and student debt without asking anyone for help. And now they were treating me like the villain for saying no? So, yeah? I didn't argue. I didn't beg them to see it from my side like I always used to. I just walked out. That was 2 months ago. I haven't spoken to them since. Until last night. At 1:12 a.m., my phone started ringing. I almost ignored it. But I saw the name. Olivia. When I answered, I heard sobbing. Heavy, desperate sobbing. For a second, I almost hung up. But then she said, "I messed up. I messed up so bad. I didn't know what else to do." She wasn't making sense. She kept repeating that she was sorry, that she was scared, that she didn't think it would go this far. Then she said something that made my blood go cold. "I forged your name." "What?" I asked, sitting straight up in bed. "The lease. For the bakery space. I put your name down as guarantor. I didn't think it would get this bad, and now the landlord's suing, and the debt collectors, they're threatening legal action. I didn't mean." I hung up. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. Because in that moment, I realized this wasn't just another Olivia mistake. This was fraud. And I was done playing the role of her safety net. When I woke up this morning, I almost convinced myself I'd dreamt the whole thing. That maybe the late-night call was just another one of Olivia's melodramatic episodes, a plea for attention wrapped in crocodile tears. But then I checked my email. There it was. A PDF attachment from a firm I'd never heard of. The subject line was blunt: Notice of intent to pursue legal action, guarantor lease default. I opened it. My name was on it. In bold. Next to a lease agreement dated 9 months ago. For a retail space in downtown Greenville, an area so overpriced that even successful franchises struggle to stay open. My name appeared again at the bottom. Signed. Neatly. Legibly. Only it wasn't my signature. It was too perfect. Like someone had practiced it off an old birthday card or tax return envelope. She'd signed my name. On a legal document. I sat back in my chair and let the weight of it settle in. This wasn't just irresponsibility. This wasn't a bounced check or a maxed-out card. This was identity fraud. And my sister had done it. By lunch, I'd spoken to a lawyer. A calm, sharp woman named Meredith who didn't flinch when I laid everything out. I emailed her the document. She called me back within the hour. "This is serious," she said. "And if she forged your name, she's opened you up to legal and financial liability. You need to protect yourself immediately." I knew what she meant. Freeze my credit. Notify the landlord. File a police report. File a police report. I stared at that line in my notes for a while. Could I really do that? Report my own sister? But then I remembered Olivia's voice on the phone, not crying for me, crying because she got caught. Not once in that whole rambling call did she ask if I was okay. If this would ruin my credit. My career. My life. She didn't care. None of them ever did. I opened a new browser tab and searched, how to press charges for forged lease documents. It was time. I drove to my parents' house that evening. Not because I owed them an explanation, but because I wanted them to hear it from me, not from some frantic Olivia trying to spin the story before the truth landed. The second my mother opened the door, her expression soured. She didn't even say hello. "We're not changing our minds about the loan," she snapped, as if I'd come groveling. I didn't blink. "Don't worry. I'm not here to offer money. I'm here to talk about the lease Olivia signed in my name." That made her hesitate. From the living room, I heard my dad's voice. "What lease?" I stepped inside. The silence stretched as I handed over the printout. "Your daughter forged my name. She used me as a guarantor. And now I'm being threatened with legal action for a bakery I had nothing to do with." My mom's mouth opened closed. "Then, of course, I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding." "No," I said calmly. "It's a felony." My dad finally looked up. "Come on, she probably just needed help and was afraid to ask. You're her brother. You could have just stepped up." That sentence. You could have just stepped up. Like all the years I did weren't enough. Like Olivia's endless stream of poor decisions were mine to clean up. "I did step up," I said quietly. "Every time you asked? I paid my way through college while you covered her first 3 majors. I skipped vacations to help you with the mortgage when she lost her 3rd job. I gave you down payments and rent in silence." They both looked away. I dropped the final blow. "I spoke to a lawyer. I'm pressing charges." That got their attention. My mom gasped. "You're not serious." "She made me legally responsible for $126,000 in rent on a failed business." "Yes, I'm serious." "She's your sister," my dad barked. "No," I said, voice level. "She's a grown woman who committed fraud. And I'm not going to prison so she can pretend she's an entrepreneur." They just stared. No apologies. No remorse. Just the stunned realization that their scapegoat had finally walked off the stage. "I suggest you tell her to lawyer up," I said, turning for the door. "Because this time, I'm not saving anyone." The backlash came faster than I expected. By the time I got home, my phone was already lighting up with messages. First from Olivia, voicemails, texts, even a tear-stained selfie with a long caption about how she didn't mean to hurt anyone. And just needed a chance. Then my parents. "Dad, you're going to ruin her life over paperwork?" "Mom, this family has done everything for you. How dare you turn your back on us?" But none of them asked the most obvious question: how are you holding up? Not one word about the damage done to my name, my finances, my peace. They were just angry that, for once, the net was snapping upward instead of down. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded everything to Meredith, my lawyer. Every text, every call log, every email. She said it helped build the case for intent and manipulation. Her voice over the phone was firm, clinical. "We'll file tomorrow morning," she said. "This isn't just forgery. It's fraud with financial damage. We'll include emotional distress and reputational harm, too." I hung up and stared at the ceiling. It should have felt good, powerful even, to finally take back control. But there was something quieter inside me. Not grief. Not regret. Grief implies loss. What I felt was something closer to clarity. I finally understood that these people, my family, they weren't just bad at supporting me. They were invested in me staying small, silent, useful. And when I stopped being that, I became the enemy. They weren't losing a son or a brother. They were losing a utility. And I wasn't going back to that. I didn't sleep that night. Not from fear, just restlessness. A decade's worth of memories kept swirling in my head. Not the good ones. The ones you normally try to bury. Birthdays skipped because Olivia had some crisis. Holidays that turned into shouting matches when I didn't pitch in enough. The time they forgot to invite me to my own father's retirement dinner because they assumed I'd be too busy with work. I used to blame myself. Maybe I was too serious. Maybe I hadn't been available enough. Maybe I didn't know how to be soft, generous, loving, like Olivia always seemed to be in their eyes. But now I saw it for what it was, conditioning. They taught me early on that love was transactional. That my worth was tied directly to what I could give. And when I stopped giving, I became disposable. The next morning, I walked into Meredith's office like a man showing up for war. She had everything ready. Legal complaint. Check. Request for restitution. Check. Notices sent to the landlord and the debt collection agency to inform them I'd been a victim of identity theft. Check. We're filing for criminal and civil, she said, tapping the folder. You won't owe a cent. We'll argue for full damages. And depending on the judge, Olivia could be looking at felony charges. I nodded, staring at my name on the paperwork. Plaintiff. Do you want to send a formal message to your family before this goes public? Meredith asked. I thought about it. Then I shook my head. They made their choice. She leaned back in her chair. You're not just filing a case. You're drawing a line in the sand. After this, there's no going back. I didn't hesitate. There's nothing to go back to. That afternoon, the papers were filed. And by evening, Olivia's name was officially entered into the court docket as a defendant in a fraud case. Meredith told me that legally, Olivia would be notified within 72 hours, but based on how fast news traveled in our family, I figured she'd find out much sooner. I was right. That night, I got a knock on my apartment door. Not a call. Not a text. A knock. I opened it and found my father standing in the hallway, arms crossed, mouth tight. We need to talk, he said. I didn't invite him in. Just leaned against the doorframe and waited. You really filed charges, he said, like he was confirming a rumor. Yes. He looked down for a moment, then back up at me with something between disbelief and disgust. You would do this to your own sister? She did it to me first, I said. His lips twitched. She made a mistake. I narrowed my eyes. No. A mistake is forgetting a birthday. What she did is a felony. He didn't speak. So I continued. She didn't ask? She didn't come to me in desperation. She forged my signature. Lied to my face. Risked my credit. My livelihood. My future. And when it all blew up, she cried and called me selfish. She was scared, he said, quieter now. So was I said. When I saw that lease. When I realized the court might think I was responsible for a business that had racked up thousands in unpaid rent. When I saw my name next to a signature I didn't write. He didn't respond. But something in his posture shifted. Maybe for the first time, he saw me, not the spare son, not the fallback plan. Me. But it was too late. I'm protecting myself, I told him. You can hate me for that if you want. But I'm not your scapegoat anymore. And I'm not your daughter's fall guy. He didn't say goodbye. Just walked down the hall and disappeared into the elevator. And I stood there in the doorway for a long time, feeling the quiet settle in. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt like peace. 2 days later, the family group chat came back to life. For years, it had been dead silent unless Olivia needed something or my parents wanted to parade her latest achievement. But now, suddenly, it was a war zone. Mom, this has gone far enough. Take the papers back. She's your sister. Cousin Rachel. Wait, Olivia forged his name? Are you serious? Olivia. I didn't mean to. I was under pressure, okay? I thought he'd help me if he knew how bad it was. Me for once. You forged my name. You didn't ask. You stole. I'm done explaining. That was the moment everything shifted. Because in that moment, the cousins, people who'd been silent spectators for years, started asking questions. Real ones. Ones my parents didn't have answers for. Rachel. Wait, wasn't this the third business you tried to start? Mark. Didn't Josh just say he had to co-sign your car loan last year, and you never paid? Emily. And wasn't Jason the one who helped with your tuition after that scholarship thing fell through? Suddenly, Olivia's golden glow started to crack. The stories didn't match. The timelines were fuzzy. And the pattern was clear: each of us had been used in turn, and we were all finally starting to realize it. I didn't gloat. I didn't say, "I told you so." I just let the group chat eat itself alive while I sat back, sipping coffee in the quiet comfort of my apartment. The same apartment I could afford because I'd spent years saying no to reckless ideas, fake emergencies, and glitter-covered lies. That night, Meredith texted me. "Olivia's been served. Court date pending. We're ready." A calm settled over me. It wasn't revenge. Not really. It was reclamation. For the first time, I wasn't chasing approval, or trying to mend the cracks in a glass house someone else kept throwing stones through. I was standing in my own corner. Alone, maybe, but upright. And for once, that was enough. The court summons hit Olivia harder than I expected. By Friday morning, her sobs had upgraded to full-blown panic on social media. She posted a vague, teary-eyed video about betrayal. How family should never turn on you. And how some people would rather see you fail than help you stand. No names, of course. Just enough breadcrumbs for her followers to run wild. And they did. Dozens of comments poured in, most of them sympathetic, calling her brave and strong. A few even took shots at me. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. Because later that day, my cousin Mark left a single comment under her video that changed everything. "Tell them whose name you forged." Silence. She deleted the video within the hour. But it was too late. Screenshots were already circulating. And behind the scenes, the truth was spreading like wildfire, faster than Olivia could control it. Friends messaged me privately. Old classmates. Even my aunt from Florida, who hadn't called me in 5 years. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea. You don't deserve this. If you ever need anything." And that's when I realized something strange. By standing up for myself, for the first time without apology, I hadn't just protected my future. I'd changed the narrative. I wasn't the cold, calculating brother anymore. I was the one who had always been cleaning up someone else's mess. The one who had finally said enough. And the story people used to hear, the one where Olivia was the dreamer and I was the selfish skeptic, it was starting to unravel. Piece by piece. My mother, true to form, tried to salvage what she could. She called me again, 4th time that week. This time, I picked up. "Sweetheart," she started, all warmth and fragility. "This doesn't have to go to court. Olivia's already lost everything. Her shop, her credit, her name. Isn't that enough?" I let the silence hang. "Please," she added. "You've always been the responsible one. Can't you be the bigger person?" There it was. The praise disguised as punishment. "You're right," I said quietly. "I've always been the responsible one. That's exactly why I'm letting this go to court." She started to cry. But I didn't flinch. Not this time. "I'm not doing this to destroy her," I said. "I'm doing this so she never gets the chance to destroy me again." And then I hung up. Court was set for Thursday morning. In the days leading up to it, Olivia's world began to cave in with the same kind of theatrical flair she'd always weaponized. She tried everything: tears, guilt, threats. At one point, she even sent me a handwritten letter. The envelope was thick. Pink, of course. Her handwriting, loopy and dramatic as ever, filled both sides of the paper. She said she'd made a horrible mistake, but insisted I'd pushed her to it by being cold and withholding. She actually wrote, "I didn't feel like I had a choice. You always had everything and never shared it. All I wanted was one win. One win." As if ruining my credit and tying my name to a 6-figure lease default was just a little tap on the scoreboard. She closed the letter by saying she hoped I could be a man and let it go. I folded the letter once, slowly, and dropped it into the evidence folder. That night, I sat with Meredith at her office to prepare. She laid everything out: paper trail, email correspondence from the landlord, credit alerts from when Olivia tanked her own score and tried to float on mine. Her voice was sharp but steady, like steel wrapped in velvet. She won't win, Meredith said. The evidence is too clean. Your testimony will seal it. I nodded but didn't speak for a moment. Then I asked something I hadn't let myself say out loud yet. What if my parents show up? Meredith looked at me, long and careful. Then let them watch. I didn't sleep that night either, but this time, it wasn't from anxiety. It was a kind of alertness, like my whole body had decided to be awake with me. Something was happening. Shifting. And when I arrived at the courthouse the next morning, dressed in a suit that cost more than Olivia's monthly rent, I walked in with my chin up. She was already there. Sitting in the hallway, flanked by our parents. My mother looked at me like she didn't recognize the man walking toward her. My father's jaw clenched so hard it looked like his teeth would crack. And Olivia? She stood up, started to speak, and froze. Because behind me, Meredith stepped forward. Briefcase in hand. Calm. Certain. And in that moment, I saw it on Olivia's face. For the first time in her life, she was terrified of me. Not because I was angry, but because I was prepared. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Quiet, too, except for the shuffle of papers and the low murmur of voices. I sat at the petitioner's table next to Meredith, watching Olivia fidget with the hem of her blouse like it might unravel her out of this. She didn't look at me. She looked small. Gone was the smug confidence, the flippant entitlement. This was someone who'd been cornered by the very game she created, and she knew it. The judge entered. Everyone rose. And just like that, years of resentment, manipulation, and silence were about to be sorted into legal language and court records. Meredith opened flawlessly. Calm. Measured. Every point backed with a document. Each email, each signed page, each ignored warning was laid out in perfect sequence. When it was my turn to testify, I stood up with hands steady. I told the truth. How I'd always been the fallback. How I supported a family that never once supported me. How Olivia forged my name, not just with ink, but with years of assumed sacrifice. How I was done. Olivia's lawyer tried to spin it. Said she was under emotional duress. That it was a moment of desperation. That family conflict clouded her judgment. But the judge wasn't buying it. He leaned forward, peering over his glasses, and said quietly, Forgery is not a family matter. It's a legal one. My parents sat still behind her, faces tight. No outbursts. No attempts to defend her out loud. Maybe they were finally starting to understand what I already knew. The hearing lasted under an hour. And when the judge said the words, in favor of the plaintiff, I didn't smile. I didn't even breathe. I just sat there, feeling the weight begin to slide off my chest. Not all of it. But enough.